The border stand India and China is now entering its third month with a new skirmish breaking out hundreds of kilometers away. Are there any solutions in sight? And as a World Robotics Conference kicks off in Beijing, we'll be asking what the world will look like as artificial intelligence becomes ever more prevalent in developed societies. Welcome to The Point. Live from Beijing, I'm Li Xin. New scuffles broke out in a separate area as the standoff between Chinese and Indian border troops enter the third month in the Donglang area. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Monday China has verified that on August the 15th, the normal patrol conducted by the Chinese border troops near the Pangong Lake in the western part of the China-India boundary was obstructed by the Indian border troops, and that the Indian side took violent action to collide and scuffle with the Chinese side, injuring some Chinese personnel. Meanwhile, Indian Minister for Home Affairs Rajnath Singh expressed hope on Monday that the deadlock will be broken soon, saying India wants to maintain peace with all its neighbours. Will the border standoff come to an end soon, and what is behind the skirmish near the Pangong Lake? For more insight, I'm pleased to be joined in our studio by Rong Ying, Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies, and in New Delhi by Binod Singh Ajachatru, Director of the BRICS Institute. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Explain a little bit to us the situation. Where exactly is Pangong Lake? Is there any dispute of territory between China and India in that part?
Well, the Pangong Lake is in the western sector of the border between China and India, and it is, I have to recognize that there's a dispute between the two countries, even though there's, I think, from the Chinese perspective, that the line of actual control of 1959 is very clear, and it is also well known to the Indian side. And there's also agreement that the two sides, we should, while pending the resolution of the disputes, the two sides should take effective measures and to respect the line of actual control, so that to ensure the peace and tranquility of the boundary between the Chinese and the Indians.
Mr. Singh, according to the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Chinese soldiers were conducting normal patrols on China's side. How come these Indian soldiers appear there? What is the Indian explanation of the scuffle?
First of all, we condemn what happened, and as for the international norms, I think Chinese PLA should say sorry to Indian Army, because it was not a just normal day. It was a 71st Independence Day of India, and on this particular occasion, what is the tradition between the armies at the border? We try to exchange sweets, we try to congratulate each other, we try to celebrate it. But this is the first time in the history, and it rarely happens, that Chinese PLA choose a time when Indian armies was busy in celebrating the independence and listening to the speech of Prime Minister, that they tried to cross the so-called perceived border and try to indulge. When Indian Army, the RTBP, the borders guard, they saw it, they tried to go with the white flag, they tried to request them that they should, go back to their normal area. As you know, that this side is controlled by China after the war. This didn't belong to China before 1962, and the total bargain is that China is claiming another part in eastern sector, and China is waiting that if in case they get that part, they will try to return this Aksai Chin, the southern part of China. So I would like to say that in India, people are very unhappy. They didn't think this is a civilized way of Chinese army to choose a date, which is the Independence Day of India, and resort to something which is very, very bad. Even Pakistani and Indian soldiers don't know that.
Mr. Rong, yes, Mr.
Coming
Rong,
with the rods, attacking the Indian army.
I got your point, Mr. Singh. Mr. Rong, what is your reaction to what Mr. Singh said?
I think if anybody would like, if there's an apology that has to be made. It should certainly should the Indian side, as we all know that at the delimited, I mean, section of the Chinese and Indian border, the Indian border troops illegally crossing the border and provoked an incident that had not resolved for past for 2 years. And I think as I said very clearly, that is the line of actual control is very clear. And the Chinese border troops is conducting normal activities. And it is the Indian side, I think, that has, I mean, making that creating trouble, that disturbing the normal activities. I think if the Indian side has any reason and any sense of respecting international norms or international law, it should, I think, as we made very clear, that it should not do had been done by crossing the delimited boundary of China and India,
there are some,
the second sector.
Sure, there are some amateur videos which are circulating on the Chinese internet, and which is claimed to be the video of the actual skirmish between the two troops. And if we can have that video at this moment, let's take a look at that. Mr. Singh, you were talking about some white flags being used here. I don't actually think that we see any white flags. Actually, there are some red flags, or one red flag, if you look really carefully, that's being waved there, being held there. Mr. Singh, what is your, have you seen this video? What is your possible explanation to the color of the flag that we're seeing here?
The video is not very authentic, but what we see and what any layman can analyze is very clear that the Chinese PLA is trying to show his kung fu skills by jumping from the top of the high land there and jumping over, and he has already injured 2 Indian armies that day. And also Chinese army were discovered with, rods there. So Indian has to just defend there. Now, if you see the ITBP, it was on the which side of the army? It was on the right side of the army. PLA was on the left side. So if you connect all the video footage, you find where Kung Fu comes from China, not from India.
Well, Kung Fu, a lot of people practice Kung Fu as well. And when you just push somebody, you don't need Kung Fu, right? You just need 2 arms and a little bit of strength. You can push somebody. You can't really say that this is Chinese Kung Fu that we're seeing on that video, Mr. Singh.
Madam, I'm sorry to say that, China has a way of dealing with border issue. In 1969, when there was a problem with Russia on the Ussuri River, again, China resorts to jostling. Whatever videos you find on amateur videos, what you see is that Chinese soldiers and Indian soldiers, they say first word, everything is clear, everything is clear. There's a problem of language. The 2 armies can't talk to each other. The English skill of Chinese PLA is not good enough to negotiate there. I think they should train some Hindi speakers or Indian language speakers.
What about having the Indians speaking Chinese?
Even some good in English will be fine. So,
I feel shocked that I mean, for the views of my friend, my young friend, I think so taking such a biased view about the incident. First of all, I think I don't know on what ground you can defute on a video whether it is authentic or unauthentic. Secondly, I think you raised an issue that is unrelated to the conversation about the boundary disputes and the incident between China and the former Soviet Union. And what I want to make it very clear is that if the Indian side had respected the line of actual control of 1959, and then there was no incident like that. You have to very clear, if you look at the ground situation, the line of actual control has not been respected. Line of LAC of 1959. And if India kept on doing like this, there will be more trouble, more incidents like that. We have enough incidents, and we have an incident that is at the Donglang. And I think just now you talked about apology. I think certainly the Indian side, your border troops owe an apology. More than that, I think the Chinese government has made it very clear a thorough investigation has to be made, and there will be actions that have to be taken. If you don't take people like you keep on talking about that, keep on telling lies like that, there will be big trouble, not only for our border troops, for our boundary, but also for two countries. Are you going to take a responsibility like that? I hope you take a clear view about that.
I'm not
young friend.
I'm not here going to, excuse me, I'm not going to here, fight with you. We
no,
are here
I'm
to
not.
Talk about the issue, not
we are
fight
civilians.
With
We're not going to certainly fight. So,
you are
but
fighting.
this isn't a conversation.
I mean, you should
a conversation based on facts, based on accepted rules.
Okay, Mr. Singh,
Allow
please
me
go
to
ahead.
speak.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to put my point very clear that if there's a problem between Indian Army and Chinese PLA, they have their mechanism to sort it out. We should not fight here in the TV studio for that issue, first thing. Second issue, if there's a misunderstanding and misperception about the line of actual control, that is the main issue between India and China. How can you claim that there's no problem? So what I find Mr. Ronging is that he has already set up his mind that all the problem is from Indian side. China has no responsibility. China has no problem with any other country. It has problem with 18 countries, 18 neighbors in South China Sea. It has problem with all the neighbors. It
I
has
have no
idea
where did you
I would like to say that
18 members of countries along South China Sea.
China never claimed.
Just let me tell you which 18 countries they are. But what I know that India has many country problems with all your neighbors.
You can take your books.
That is
all
fact.
in the public.
If we are going to have a real conversation, please respect the fact, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, China doesn't say that it has
please try
resolved
to speak
all
the journalism language. Yeah.
Well, I think Mr. Rong has not used any vulgar languages here. He's just making his points. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Singh. Yes.
All the problem this time has just one core issue. The language used by Chinese experts, Chinese media, not by Chinese ministry, but by this Chinese so-called expert who happens to be an ex-diplomat serving in different countries and also India expert. I think unless and until they restrain,
give you the right.
Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish.
Don't shout. Don't shout.
Don't shout. Allow me to finish.
I'll certainly ask you to finish.
Are you saying
that it has to be based on
is a very good host.
If you really want to do a conversation,
I think Liu Xin is a very good host. And she would allow us, she would allow us to finish one side and the next side will respond. I just make it very brief that the issue should not have blown up so high and so long. We are going into third month. Just because if you can restrain your so-called state-sponsored media like Global Times and some so-called part-time India scholars. None of you are full-time India scholars, neither Mr. Ronging. So now you're just coming to the studio and trying to make everything
there are also a lot of
blame on the
Yes,
Indians.
Mr. Singh, I'm running. Mr. Singh, I got your point. I got your point.
This is not. See,
Mr. Singh, I got your point. I have to control the time.
I just want to say last point.
Okay,
last
go
point
ahead. One sentence, please.
Just last point that we cannot talk to media. Yeah, we cannot talk to media or Global Times. We should talk to the Foreign Ministry of China. That's the point.
Well,
and that's why Home Minister
the Chinese Foreign Ministry has said that they are not closed to dialogue. Mr. Singh, if I give you the time to talk, you should also know when to stop because I'm really running out of time.
That's very good news. Yeah.
I gave you the opportunity to speak. So I get your point, and the Chinese Foreign Ministry has said they're open to negotiation, but there is some precondition that the Indian troops have to be out of this Donglang area or retreat back to their side of the border. To the Bhutanese side of the border first. Anyway, another heated discussion. It's quite unfortunate that every time we talk about the border step, it gets a little bit out of control. I hope the situation on the ground will not continue to go out of control. Mr. Ronging, thank you very much, Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies, and many thanks to our friend from New Delhi, Mr. Binod Singh Ajashatru, Director of the BRICS Institute. I still have to make my point. point. Imagine you are dissatisfied with what a neighbor builds in his garden. Instead of lodging a protest with him, you go straight into the garden and stay there in order to achieve your goal. In fact, it's not even your next door neighbor, it's your neighbor's neighbor. You think your next door neighbor's rights are being infringed upon and you take action on his behalf. That's how the Chinese see the Donglang standoff or the Donglang standoff. To resolve it is actually quite simple, right? Stop the trespassing, go back to your home, and then people can sit down and talk, but not while the trespassing still goes on. I really hope the situation doesn't continue like this. You have been watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. We'll take a short break and we'll be back right after this. The World Robot Conference 2017, a feast for both tech geeks and general visitors, kicked off Wednesday in Beijing. Artificial intelligence specialists and representatives of over 150 robotics enterprises are taking part in the event, which lasts for 5 days. The conference will feature a 3-day forum, an exhibition, and a set of contests. Established in 2015, the event has become the biggest and the most international in the industry. And the theme for this year is win-win collaborative innovation toward the building of an intelligent society. What are China's advantages maybe in the robotics industry? What are the opportunities and threats brought about by artificial intelligence? I'm pleased to be joined in the studio by Professor Xi Ning, Chair Professor of Robotics and Automation, also Director of Emerging Technologies Institute from the University of Hong Kong, and by Jeff Bernstein, President at Robotic Industries Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much and welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
First of all, what's so exciting about this year's conference? Jeff?
And I've really been inspired by the collaboration that I'm seeing. I've learned a lot about what many countries are doing in robotics. There's a lot of commonality in terms of research areas. The Chinese have a very clear vision of the future, of what they see, government support for it. I find that very interesting.
What is the one theme that everybody is talking about? Is there one theme?
Well, I don't know if it's one theme. It's many things. It's artificial
intelligence. But what is
the
most hot topic, let's say?
Well, certainly artificial intelligence is among them, and mobility of machines. You know, mostly in our lives, robots have been fixed, but we're seeing mobile robots in a number of areas, not just in manufacturing.
Yeah, Professor Xi, what is your take, and how closely related is what we're talking about to our daily life?
I've been participating in this conference for the last 3 times. So this is the 3rd time we had this conference. So you talk about the thing which mostly impressed me is the size.
The size?
Yes. The last year we had over 100,000 participants. So this year probably we're going to go beyond 200,000.
Wow.
Okay, so this probably is the largest robotics event in the world.
What's the attraction here?
The attraction is from the outside. Of course, it's from industry. So a lot of Chinese, like industry, they're interested in the robotics technology, right? They want to use the robots to improve their productivity, to increase the efficiency, right? Then to make more money, right? Then also from general public. I saw a lot of parents bring their kids to the show, right? From the 5-6 years kids to all the way to the 70-80 years gentlemen and the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, annual sales, according to the International Federation of Robotics, annual sales in China is really jumping very fast. Within a year, sales in China surged by 27% to 87,000 units in 2016. What are China's advantages in this industry, Professor Xi?
Because China's advantage, see, China was has probably the largest manufacturing industry in the world. So now China tries to make the best manufacturing industry in the world. So from the largest to the best, there are a lot of hurdles we have to cross over. Right? And one of the key technology will help us to do that is the robotics technology. So it will help us to increase the productivity, increase the efficiency.
Yeah, Jeff, what do you think are China's advantages and disadvantages, or the gap between China and America, maybe?
Well, certainly that was well said about China has got a lot of manufacturing and they want to be able to maintain it. And they've got strong government support to do that. Plus they have innovative companies, and there is a demand to have robots do a lot of the work to keep these companies competitive. And this is something that isn't just in China. This is a global trend. In America, we're seeing it too. What we find that's so interesting about this is what our experience in America is that as the use of robots has gone up, the number of jobs actually are increasing. We've looked at this for 20 years. When robot sales rise in America, unemployment falls. And when robot sales fall, unemployment rises.
What are the reasons behind that? I mean,
Well,
that's the contrary to what we believe.
I know.
And to what some people in the White House believe.
Yeah, well, the reason for it is simple. The real threat to jobs is the inability to compete. People expect their next iPhone to be better quality at a similar price point, and they want it right away. Automation allows you to do things like that in all industries and all consumer products, and this is what's driving the need to automate. And we create new jobs in many fields that we never even thought of. If I would have asked you 20 years ago, are there people whose job title is search engine optimization specialist?
No.
Or app developer for
I understand
a phone?
every word, but I don't understand the job.
Exactly. Because we're really good at creating new things to do for ourselves. And automation actually enables a lot of this. Technology has been a threat for years. People have said it's going to put people out of work. I've been in this business 34 years.
Yeah.
I was told when I started, robots are going to put everybody out of work.
But there are a lot of people who have been put out of work because of the use of automation. For instance, in car factories, you wouldn't need all these people to, put in these parts. It will be done by machines. What about that part? How are these people able to be competitive, stay competitive, Professor Xu?
Jeff made a very important point. Basically, he was saying is as a society, the robotics technology actually increased number of jobs. Okay, but if we're talking about the individual, it may be different story, right? Today you are doing something, tomorrow your job may be replaced by the robot. So what that means as an individual, so we have to be able to get retrained, right? You have to learn new technology, then you can adapt to the development of new technology.
So it's a totally different mix of knowledge that we have to acquire, and provide in education. We're also talking about threats, the controversy surrounding AI. Famously, Steve Hawking told the BBC that the development of AI might spell the end of human race. Is he exaggerating?
I certainly think so.
Why would he say that?
Well, there are other people. There are people on other sides of the issue as well. I mean, there are famous people on both sides of this issue. But I think if we emphasize the threat, we miss the opportunity. So, for instance, it's going to destroy all of mankind. Well, look at what IBM Watson is a great example of artificial intelligence. It's helping doctors find cures to diseases that we can't currently cure, because no doctor can read all of the medical literature out there. These artificial intelligence systems like Watson can read them very quickly and provide doctors with data that will help them come up with treatment scenarios. So I think if we emphasize the danger, we miss the opportunity.
The thing is, sometimes the danger is underestimated, or for instance, when we talk about automatic weapons, you might not think it's something that's very important. Basically, what happened during the years when atomic was being studied, a lot of people simply did not understand what atomic bomb was until they were about to finish it, and then they understand the kind of catastrophic consequences that atomic bomb can have. Professor Xu, are we exaggerating about the possible harm of AI in the deployment of weapons, such as atomic weapons, such as automatic weapons?
Yes, but every new technology occurs and developed, they always have both sides, right? Then you can use it peacefully, right? Then we hope everybody will do that. But there's another side also, people can use it to harm the human, right? So, but I don't think the automatic weapon is much more dangerous than atomic bomb or another kind of. You look at the history, right? Before we have a firearm, right? People use knife or whatever. When firearm occurred, right? I think the impact to the society, to the mankind, be much larger than the automatic weapon compared to whatever weapon we have today, right? So I don't think that is a so serious threat to the mankind, okay? Because we already went through many those kind of things, right? Then once it occurs, we will find a way to deal with.
Yeah, you believe that? Okay, hopefully that is the case. Also, some people are saying, you know, this rapid acceptance of AI is going to divide the world further into haves and have-nots, larger the gap between, you know, the people who are more privileged. And do you buy that kind of fear?
I don't.
Again?
Because I think, you know...
Maybe because you're in the industry.
Well, maybe, but also it's also possible that just the opposite could happen.
Yeah.
It could level the playing field. That the opportunity for the so-called have-nots to have the opportunity to use robotics and artificial intelligence to lower the cost of their products, to make their lives better, to find cures for diseases, that might actually make their lives better.
So,
Yeah.
in another side, also from education point of view, right? Then I think the education will level the playing field for all people. Then the AI will help us to educate people, especially people now has the difficulty to access the certain high-level education, right? The AI will help us to do that.
Yeah, okay, I got maybe 20 seconds, very briefly. How much more prepared shall I be for AI? Jeff?
How much more prepared should you be?
Yeah, I mean, shall I
How much are
start
you going to see
embracing
in your
it
daily life?
now?
I think you're going to see more smart machines in the future. Okay, and I think this is a good thing. I think you should embrace
I should
it.
really look forward to it.
I think you should look forward
find out
to
about
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Sure. I think you should look forward. AI will help us to a lot of things today we even cannot imagine about it.
Okay. Well, I've never been a very much technology person, but I guess I should start doing that from now on. Thank you very much, Professor Xining, Chair Professor of Robotics and Automation at the University of Hong Kong, and Jeff Bernstein, President of the Association for Advancing Automation in the Greater Detroit Area. And you have been watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. Many thanks for watching. As usual, follow me on Twitter or Facebook using the handle The Point with LX. Download the application called CGTN Live to watch our show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.